Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every day I bring you stories of remarkable individuals and groundbreaking ideas. And today I've got a truly inspiring guest lined up, and his name is Cody Coleman, and he's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Coactive, which is a Cloud 100 recognized startup that is revolutionizing the way that organizations harness the power of image and video data. But Cody also has an incredibly powerful backstory, starting from humble beginnings, earning his Ph.D. at Stanford, and now leading this cutting-edge visual data analytics and search platform. He is deeply passionate about sustainable and ethical AI too, working tirelessly to combat things like algorithmic bias in computer vision. And they've recently announced funding of $14 million in combined seed and Series A funding. So I want to learn more about his journey, the funding, how that funding is going to help Coactive refine their go-to-market strategy and further develop the company too. And hopefully during the episode today, Cody will also share how Coactive's platform will benefit enterprises, the kind of problems it solves, and not just enterprises, startups alike, and helping them unlock the hidden value in the world's images and videos. And we'll also discuss their closed beta, which includes companies like Fandom, to gather feedback and fine-tune the platform before they launched. So without further ado, let's dive into this fascinating conversation with Cody, the co-founder and CEO of Coactive.
So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. So I'm Cody Coleman. I'm a co-founder of Coactive AI, and I serve as the CEO. And what we do at Coactive is that we give valuable context to make it easy to analyze and search images and videos.
And I'm really looking forward to diving in a little bit deeper and finding more out about all things Coactive AI. But I also read before you came on the podcast today that you've got a compelling personal backstory. So can I ask you share your origin story and what essentially took you from a humble beginnings to being the co-founder of a Cloud 100 recognized startup? It's an incredible story, isn't it? And I'd love for you to share it with the listeners.
Well, it's definitely a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So I came from a very humble background. My father left before I was born. I still don't even know his name. And I was actually born while my mom was in prison. So quickly put into foster care and then adopted by my maternal grandparents. And basically grew up in poverty all my life. So probably with that alone, you wouldn't expect me to be a founder of a venture-backed startup in AI and systems. So the journey along the way was kind of crazy and just ultimately a surreal experience for me. But kind of going through kind of the spark notes of it, so came from a super humble background, grew up with my grandparents. They only had like a second grade and fourth grade education, the two of them. So really had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own, and was kind of in this like independent environment. So luckily, I grew up watching like the Science Channel, the Discovery Channel, and I just love the idea of being able to build things, and the notion of actually being able to build, a company or business was something that I dreamed of as a little kid, though I never thought it was possible. But what I did do is I kept kind of building and working on things. And my oldest brother, he actually had worked in IT. He had actually dropped out of college and got a job working in an IT department. And he actually helped me build my first computer ever and got me into video games and things like that. I was opened up to this kind of whole world of computers. And, I just love the fact that like with a computer, all you need is like, a laptop and like an internet connection. You could create something that would impact the lives of thousands or millions or now billions of people around the world. And you can even create kind of completely other worlds. And I just love the idea that was so accessible and that someone like me could actually be able to have an impact like that. And then fast forwarding kind of a bit, I learned that, computer science was a thing when I applied to colleges growing up. And was fortunate enough to have great guidance and mentors from my trigonometry teacher in school, and decided to go for it. And I shot kind of really high and decided to get that. Decided to apply to MIT, which to my surprise, I got in and got accepted and just met amazing people like my co-founder, Will Rivera there, who also has a humble background, and kind of went from there. But I could talk your ear off on that. I could give you more kind of spark jokes on it if that works.
No, it's absolutely incredible story, and I love hearing stories like this. And I'm curious, do you feel that there's any amount of serendipity in that, the people you met along the way? Because it was almost like the odds were stacked against you, but you had that desire, you had that passion, and things started happening. Was there any moments of serendipity throughout that journey?
Oh, there were so many moments of serendipity and just like amazing kindness and generosity from people all along the way. So I mentioned my older brother, who was a role model to me in helping create my first computer. And, he was 18 years older than me. So when I was born, he was already out of the house and everything like that, but he came back to help me out and to help my family out and their siblings. Even though he had kind of a little bit of friction with my grandparents growing up. And then in my high school, I didn't go to like an amazing high school or any kind of world-renowned school. I went to just a normal public school in New Jersey, and we were actually ranked 300 out of 322 schools in the state. Yeah. But the teachers there are like really, really cared. So like in particular, I mentioned my trigonometry teacher, Chantel Smith, and she basically has become kind of an unofficial, like she's my unofficial adopted mom. I had her kind of my junior year, and I had these braces that were like falling off of my teeth, and she basically took me to her kid's orthodontist. She to help them get like removed so they weren't falling off anymore. She took me to get kind of my driver's license, and then when I went to MIT, she would send me care packages all along the way. And then even at MIT, thinking about I had a professor, like I never thought that I would do a PhD or anything like that. But I did some undergraduate research, and I had this amazing advisor like Isaac Flung, who was like, you should really apply for PhD programs, and if money's an issue, I'll pay for you to apply to 4 schools. So there's so many people that are like that kind of along my journey that, just amazing generosity and kindness that led to kind of these unbelievable kind of experiences and opportunities I have now.
Yeah, it's something I hear time and time again. I've interviewed 2,300 people on here. There's so many special people out there that see something in someone, just invest a little time in them and help shape their entire future. It's incredible. So I urge anyone that's thinking of doing anything like that to do that, because it could change the world. It really can. And I also read in yourself that you've got a passion for extensive research in sustainable and ethical AI. Can you tell me more about that and what lit that spark in you too?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so it kind of comes back to like that beginning, the thing that I was really passionate about with computer science, in comparison to other forms of engineering, is that you really didn't need that much to be able to create an application that would impact the lives of, people around the world. But with AI, AI has this tremendous potential to kind of just transform everyday life and really is kind of the source of innovation kind of going forward. So that's super amazing. But at the same time, having worked with AI through my master's degree and then my PhD and working at kind of leading companies in the field, I saw that AI, you needed a tremendous amount of resources, both in terms of computation, in terms of energy, in terms of expertise to be able to do anything. And it really started to make computer science, feel a little bit more like other forms of engineering, where you need hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment to be able to do anything. And that, kind of bothered me, because I wanted to enable more people like myself, that came from humble backgrounds, to be able to actually create this next wave of intelligent applications. So that's where my kind of initial passion for, sustainable and ethical AI kind of came from, which was really just trying to like lower the barrier to entry so more people can actually participate in this next wave of innovation and create applications that, really benefit society at large, and not just kind of, the largest companies in the world. and keep that magical thing about computer science that I loved alive.
And on a similar theme there, can I also ask you, just expand on your research to combat algorithmic bias in computer vision? Because again, it's a topic very close to your heart, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, 100%. So in thinking about kind of combating bias and things like that, actually maybe taking a step back for a second, like in thinking about my research kind of broadly, there was kind of three, like, I was fortunate enough to be a part of this Dawn project at Stanford, which was really trying to democratize AI. Again, with a mission of making it so that it wasn't just the largest tech companies that could actually benefit from it. And so that you could get a wide variety of people to use it. So first, I thought about how do we reduce the barrier in terms of compute and resources needed to create AI. And I was created this benchmark called Dawn Bench, which was like the first benchmark to measure end-to-end performance. And then that grew into this kind of industry standard benchmark, MLPerf, through collaborations with folks from Google and Harvard and Baidu to really create this industry standard, which we saw it actually drive kind of massive reductions in like the amount of resources that were needed. So, reduce the amount of time that it takes to train state-of-the-art models by over 400x, and reduce the cost that it takes to train these models by 20x. Just in the span of like a 4 months when we ran kind of the competition around Dawn Bench. So that kind of like made the barrier much lower and kind of was the first step to helping democratize AI. And then the second step that I became super fascinated about during my PhD was related to data. When I first started my PhD, the prevailing kind of wisdom was throw all the data that you can at a model and just let it figure it out. But that was super expensive because you would need kind of a ton of resources to label and train data, to label data and to train on that data. So I was like, there has to be a better way. We can be smarter about this and we can focus on quality rather than quantity. And that's where kind of the second phase in thinking about kind of the ethical piece is, because not only by being smarter about which data points you decide to label, can you reduce the cost and the barrier to creating these models, but it also kind of led into this work of like thinking about how do we actually create a more diverse and reflective data sets, and that tied into this kind of most recent work on Dollar Street related to ethical AI. So yeah, and thinking about the Dollar Street data set, this was, so taking a step back, Dollar Street was this amazing project created by Gapminder, which is this nonprofit in Europe, where the whole goal of the Dollar Street project was originally to mitigate human bias. So for many of us, living in the US or Europe, when we think about kind of everyday life, or we think about kind of like where we are in terms of like society, a lot of us think that we're kind of in the middle of what society looks like, in terms of like everyday life and things like that. And what the Dollar Street project wanted to do is, for folks that are to really give perspective about it, and to actually kind of educate people that, if you're in the US or Europe, you're actually not the middle class, you're actually kind of the global upper class, you're the 1%. So they did this amazing work of going around the world to a bunch of different countries and locations and different socioeconomic statuses to collect these photos of everyday household items from families around the world to really showcase what life truly looks like, and to the surprise of many people, seeing what an everyday household item looks like for families, like when you're in Vietnam and you're making maybe $200 a month, like you don't have a nice kind of 4-burner stove. It's actually like their life is working with a fire pit, to actually cook their meals and things like that, which was eye-opening to a number of people about kind of global economics and just the world around us. And that project inspired me because seeing that problem, seeing how humans have bias, and, with my background and hat on AI, I was very, very attuned to the fact that, machine learning models and artificial intelligence have the exact same problems that the Dollar Street Project was trying to address in human beings. However, the way that the data was, the way that the images and things like that were positioned on the Dollar Street website didn't make it really easy for ML researchers in the ML community to leverage this data to actually help kind of push the field forward and mitigate bias. If it wasn't hard enough in starting a company, at the same time, I was just so passionate about taking this data and packaging it up so that it could actually help move that AI field forward that, my co-founder, Will, and a few other folks on the team, we were basically working nights and weekends to actually transform this data set and actually showcase the power that it could have on machine learning models. So we showed that, if you just take kind of like the industry standard models that are out there right now, and you were to evaluate it on different socioeconomic statuses, the performance drops dramatically as we go from kind of the highest income kind of parts of the world to lower income parts of the world, which is really, really unfortunate when we think about just, the wide scale impact that AI is going to have. Ideally, we want it to be able to lift all boats, not just the people that are already the most well off. And the fortunate thing is, the really powerful and exciting thing about the Dollar Street data set is that we showed that if you fine tune, so if you take your existing model and you update it a little bit on the data from Dollar Street, you can actually dramatically improve the performance of the model across the board so that you get kind of performance that's more or less equal across socioeconomic statuses, with the lowest income populations having a massive 50% improvement over what the kind of standard pre-trained industry models would give you.
And as I said a few moments ago, I could talk about this stuff with you for hours. And I suppose really this brings us right up to Coactive AI. And there will be people listening, hearing about you guys for the very first time. So for those people, can you just tell me a little bit more about the kind of problems that you set out to solve with Coactive?
Yeah, that's a super great question. So what we're trying to do with Coactive AI is, again, to make it really easy to analyze and search visual content, and make it easy to process this kind of form of unstructured data, which right now makes up, the majority of the world around us. 80% of internet traffic already is video data, and that's up a whopping 73% since 2017. So it's just massive how much image and video data, this visual data is out there. You see it every day. Right now we're talking on a Zoom call. When you think about the rise of e-commerce, we're making purchasing decisions based off of images and video. And then when you think about like if you have kids, like they're probably addicted to things like TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's really like capturing the content that we consume and influencing the products that we buy. 80% of consumers say that user-generated content, UGC, actually impacts their decision to make to buy products. So all of this data is massive and can generate a tremendous amount of value in improving search, recommendation, and just generally kind of our experiences online. But the problem is that it's really difficult to make use of this data. And that's the problem that we're solving with Coactive. Given my background and the research that I was doing, I could see just, how many resources it takes in order to actually be able to kind of process this data efficiently. Kind of going back to what I mentioned with the benchmarking results where, we saw that like, if you have the expertise, you can reduce the time by, over like 400x and reduce the cost by 20x. But most companies don't have like the expertise or the talent in-house to be able to do that. And then the data pieces that I mentioned, where you can reduce the amount of data that you need to label by orders of magnitude, while still getting the same performance. Now, what I quickly realized, is like I had worked at companies like Meta and Google and Pinterest, which are the leaders in the world. And you could almost see this kind of emerging playbook with how they worked with this unstructured data, this visual content, images and videos. But most companies, most organizations out there just don't have, the time or the in-house expertise to really like develop those systems. It takes millions of dollars and years to be able to build this infrastructure. So what we want to do with Coactive is to give everyone else kind of access to that same kind of enterprise-grade solution in that playbook, so they can leverage this, ocean of unstructured data that they already have and are collecting, and that's only going to grow, especially as we think about the advent of generative AI, the fact that it's just way easier to create content now.
Just to bring to life some of the things we're talking about here, do you have any use cases you could possibly share just to bring to life how businesses are using Coactive to get those insights from the visual data to power critical systems like search analytics and also informing UGC-driven strategies and so much more? Because there's so much scope there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of scope and problems. The biggest issue that we have is actually trying to keep the scope narrow enough. But, one big problem that we've seen, especially when you think about user-generated content, is working with companies like community platforms like Fandom. We saw that, user content is the lifeblood of creating online communities and platforms and just kind of engaging material. However, at the same time, user content it's not always good. It's unfortunate, but a very small fraction of people in the content that's generated online isn't the best content, isn't things that should be really seen, especially depending on the community and the context. Like if you think about like a company like Fandom, which is kind of a Wikipedia for your favorite TV shows, movies, and video games, you have a wide spectrum of things on there where you have video games that maybe like tailored towards kids and things like that. And the images that are uploaded to this platform, to this Wikipedia, again, there's some potential like bad actors that might upload kind of explicit material. And we want to make sure that the communities are safe and that you can trust the platforms, that you can trust being online in these communities. The trust and safety is a huge thing. So we help companies actually filter out automatically bad content, so we can actually preserve the safety of communities online. That's kind of the first initial thing that we see with a lot of these kind of user-generated content platforms. And then after that, there's like a wide variety of things to actually enrich search, because when you have user-generated content as a platform, you don't understand if this is a photo of Star Wars or a photo of Pokemon. But with Coactive, we can actually give that content valuable context that actually helps platforms be able to kind of make a more engaging search and recommendation experience as well.
And when I was doing a bit of research on you guys, I also learned that you recently announced $14 million in funding. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and essentially what it means for you all at Coactive too?
Yeah. So again, I'm so incredibly grateful and blown away by the opportunities that, we've had at Coactive AI and raising this $14 million from, just really amazing firms, Andreessen, Horowitz, and Bessemer, and some of the best partners that you can imagine in terms of Martin Casado and Elliot Robinson. Has really just been a dream come true that I'm so thankful for and excited for what it enables us to do with Coactive, because we're going after a really big problem here. Again, 80% of data is unstructured data like audio, images, and video. And what this capital enables us to do is really be able to support our customers better, our existing customers better, and actually expand to more customers and help more businesses and companies actually leverage this ocean of data that they have and just sitting on their servers.
And what's next for Coactive AI? Is there anything you can share about where you're going from here, or what your big focus is? I appreciate it's probably you're limited to what you can share, but is there anything you can leave us with?
Yeah. So, of course, there's so many things that I wish I could share and tell, but I'll keep it focused. So, ultimately, what we're doing kind of from here and what you'll see from Coactive is that we're really focusing on how do we take this kind of amazing experience that we've had and this high quality engagements that we've had with companies like Fandom and create kind of a repeatable motion as we kind of go to market to keep that same like high level of quality and expand it to, again, just more businesses and more use cases around visual content and really become that platform that brings structure to unstructured data and helps companies really realize the power of their content. And I think there's so many awesome use cases that we'll see as we continue to engage with more companies across, consumer retail and media technologies, that I just can't wait to see all the interesting ways that companies are actually able to use their content to create better experiences and to just create more value for their users and the companies that they're a part of.
Absolutely love that. I love geeking out with you today. But before I let you go, I'm going to have a bit of fun with you now and have some quick fire questions here on a light-hearted note. So to begin with, I'm going to say, is there a book that has inspired you or a song that has inspired you that we can either add to our Spotify playlist or Amazon wish list that anyone listening can check out? All I'm going to ask is, what are you going to leave us with and why?
Yeah. So, can I give you both a book and a song recommendation, or
I'm not going to constrict you there. Go for it.
Well, a few, because this is a hard question. It would be a hard debate between the song and the book. Well, so one book that I love is I recently finished is called Never Finished by David Goggins.
Cool.
And I saw on your reading list that you had David Goggins' previous book, Can't Hurt Me, on there as well, which I love. But the amazing thing about Never Finished is that there's just a tremendous amount of wisdom from David about how do you overcome obstacles, how do you keep pushing forward, and how do you keep your mind in the right zone and focus to really like unlock and achieve your true potential, and just the amazing motivation and determination that he has is an inspiration to me. Because, as you can imagine, starting a company and kind of going through all this stuff is like not an easy thing to do. And just the level of motivation I get from that book and the insights of how to, strengthen my mind to kind of get to that next level has been transformational for me.
Awesome. I'll get that added to the Amazon wish list and the song. I'm kind of curious now where you're going with this.
Yeah, so this song is a bit of an oldie, but it's a song that was kind of very near and dear to me. Growing up, going through MIT, and it's "I Can" by Nas.
Yes.
And it's just this amazing song, just about how you can really kind of do anything if you put your mind to it. But it was just an inspiration to me because, first getting into like MIT and first starting on this journey, I had like such a huge sense of imposter syndrome and doubt about, whether I would be able to succeed at MIT. And then, it just kind of repeats when I go and I did my Ph.D. and with the company. And "I Can" has been a song that I come back to as motivation and inspiration that, I can be what I want to be if I put my mind to it. So it's a super special song for me that has kind of helped me get through and achieve the things that I've been super fortunate to achieve to date.
Awesome. Well, I'll get that song added to the Amazon, to the Spotify playlist as well. Great choice. And as someone that's battled with that imposter syndrome too, I know exactly what you feel there. And finally, of course, you came from humble beginnings, and none of us, no matter who we are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. So if you were to look back, is there any particular person you want to give a shout out to, or maybe saw something in you and helped you get where you are? Is anyone you'd like to thank out there?
Oh, man. Now I could really talk to you for hours. Just the laundry list of people. But again, I have to thank my older brother, Sean, my trigonometry teacher, Sean Paul Smith, as I mentioned, and Isaac Schwung, who, again, was the inspiration for doing my Ph.D. But, more recently, I'm tremendously thankful for my Ph.D. advisor, Matej Zaharia, because working with him and just how humble and thoughtful he was. He started a company as well. He started Databricks, which is now worth over, $40 billion. So being able to work kind of closely with him, just helped demystify this whole process for me. And he's continued to be a mentor to me even after finishing up the PhD, and he's an advisor to Coactive as well. So I'm just super thankful to have kind of him as just kind of a constant through line in this whole journey that I'm going through right now. And then also another huge shout out to Cody Coleman, who is just an absolute legend. And I view him as kind of, that little Yoda on my shoulder that's giving me advice and figuring out how to navigate this whole world of being a startup founder and a CEO.
Awesome. Absolutely love it. I love chatting with you today. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Coactive AI, or maybe even contact you or your team, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, so the best starting point is either going to our website, coactive.ai, or following us on LinkedIn at LinkedIn or Twitter at Coactive AI.
Brilliant. Well, I'll get those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easy. Love chatting with you today about discussing your story as the co-founder and CEO of Coactive, and particularly that compelling backstory and what you've achieved there, where your passion and what lit that passion in you and that spark, and where you're taking it now. I'd love to stay in touch with you, see where it takes you, how your career evolves, but more than anything, just thanks for sharing your story with me today.
Thank you so much. And it was an absolute pleasure being on the show. So thanks again for having me.
And that wraps up another incredible conversation. And a big thank you to Cody, co-founder and CEO of Coactive, for sharing his inspiring journey from those humble beginnings to leading a Cloud 100 recognized startup. And his dedication as well to sustainable and ethical AI is such a hot topic right now. And a big thank you to each and every one of you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation with Cody and want to learn more about Coactive, make sure to visit their website and follow them on the social media channels for all the latest updates. And please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review this podcast. It really helps the show battle against those pesky algorithms, and also makes it easier for me to find more inspiring stories of innovation, technology, success, and so much more. But a big thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.